Listen to the radio. Harry and Edna's want to show you heard it from the Three Bells.
What ode, Harry and Edna on the wireless, when I, Mr. Harry, will take you by the hand and lead you gently through the current UK vintage scene. Now, you may have, a few things a bit different about today's show. One, you're just hearing my voice. That's because the delightful Edna, unfortunately, is working away. She'd, as you may have gathered from previous shows, she has a day job like us all, and she's out there working at a historical event this at the moment, so I'm on my own. She's not able to join me. But she will join us in spirit, because before she left, she recorded an interview with the wonderful Chris Reynolds, who is creating the Blackout Britain Museum about the home front, based in Suffolk. Now, that also leads us in, because if you're a regular listener to Harry and Edna, you know we're playing quite a few classic songs today, and this is quite unusual. I mean, let's be brutally honest, half the time we play some pretty weird stuff from the period. But no, today we thought, you know what, in honour of Mr. Reynolds and the Blackout Britain Museum, we shall play those classic tracks that you often hear. If you buy a compilation album, does anybody buy those anymore? A compilation album, these are the sort of tracks you'd have on. If you go to one of the events, these are the ones that you'll hear people singing. And they are the ones that, if you ever do remembrance events, these are the songs that folks do remember. It's unusual for us. We don't tend to play this. If you'd listen to our back catalogue, and please do, it's all there for you to listen to on harryandedna.co.uk. Just get the plug in. You all know we don't usually stay away from these. And, well, there are some real crackers, in the classic line.
What ho? So we're welcoming to the show Chris Reynolds, who's setting up what we're calling a micro museum on Blackout Britain. But Chris, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your idea for setting up this museum in the first place, and sort of the idea behind it?
Yeah, sure. It's been something I've wanted to do since I was rather young. I started collecting when I was 7 years old, and it's always been a fascination, that sort of late 1930s sort of interwar period, through the Second World War, and then sort of just the post-war austerity. It's always been something that's interested me as a young child. I was never happy than visiting a museum of one kind or another, and I always wanted to do it. So a few years ago, I just thought, well, I'm getting a little older now. Let's try and sort of do some of those things that I've always wanted to do, and it's just sort of slowly, gradually built up from there. We've had the idea that we'll do it, and we've got that aim, and we've got no final end date to it. It's just going to be something that's going to grow and evolve over time, and hopefully we'll put on some great displays and meet some really interesting people. And part of it is the fact that we've now seen the last of the Great War veterans have gone, and now we're getting fewer and fewer of those Second World War veterans that I was talking to 20 or 30 years ago. Now's actually the time. Come on, let's just make sure we've got all of those stories and those those people's histories. Let's make sure we remember those now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's dedicated just specifically to the home front, the British home front. Yeah,
that's it. It's specifically the home front, and we are based in East Suffolk, and we're drenched in American history over here, which is fantastic. It was a great part of the Second World War. Yeah. But there's very little on the way of home front around here. So that is something that I've always been interested in. That's always been my speciality, if you like, and that's where the bulk of my collection's been, and my interest has always been focused.
So how do you start a museum? Is it when you started collecting all those years ago? Did you just collect everything to do with the home front, and then you sort of, knowing that's how Harry and I started, and then we kind of refined what we collected, or did you just collect everything and then think, what am I going to do with all this stuff?
I think, to be honest, that's probably how a lot of people start collecting. I mean, collected anything to do with the Second World War to start off with over the first few years, and being quite young at the time, people would come and give you things, and you go out and any antique fairs or antique shops, you go in there and Second World War, I have that, and then you find out you've got this huge collection of different bits that don't all intermingle, and I found that actually it was the home front items that really were the bits that were interesting me. So that's when I then sort of focused on that, and then you thought, oh, that's quite that's a home front. That's quite a small aspect, but actually it really isn't. I mean, over the years you find out more and more of these much smaller organisations within the home front that you didn't know about. I mean, everyone knows about the ARP and the Home Guard and the WVS and services like that. But then you start looking into these much smaller organisations, and also the other organisations that people know about on every day. Things like the Boy Scouts and the Girl Guides, the organisations that are still here. They all had their input into the home front, into winning the Second World War. In their own small ways, each district had their own little story to tell.
What ho?
When you're setting up a museum, do you then say, right, I've got lots of, I don't know, ARP, so we will set up an ARP display, or are you actually going to sort of theme it by rooms? How do you decide what you're going to...
The idea at the moment is we've got those big main organisations, as I said, that everyone who really does think about when they think about the home front. So there's going to be, I'm going to class sort of permanent displays, which will probably grow and evolve over time as well. So there will be a Home Guard display, which will be a permanent fixture. There'll be an ARP and Civil Defence display that will be a permanent fixture. Then there's going to be the sort of AFS and fire services. But I don't envisage that they'll stay the same. I want people to be able to come back time and time again and see something different each time. So increase much smaller displays. And if it's something that that might not be permanent, it might be something that we'll have out for a year, and then we'll rotate it, and then we'll concentrate on another aspect. So it might be American Ambulance, Great Britain. Perhaps we might do something on that. We might do something on the Mechanised Transport Corps. It's all going to be down to space to start off with. As and when we grow, which I very much hope we will, then perhaps those temporary displays may become more permanent displays. But I'd quite like it to be somewhere that it doesn't become a stagnant and a dusty old museum that you go back to time and time again and you see the same things in the cabinets and the same displays.
Just slightly dustier.
It'd be quite nice just to try and keep it, keep it fresh, keep it moving, and also from the preservation of the items as well. Anyone who's got a collection of old woolen clothes, whether it might be First World War, Second World War, any time, knows the threat of the moth and everything else. So it's always good to keep things moving.
And I guess it's a really interesting aspect, isn't it? If you can have a changing exhibition where, as you quite rightly say, you're telling those stories of all the other bits of the home front we don't really get to see and hear about very much in other museums, such as the contribution the WI made to it and the Boy Scouts and the Girl Guides, because you don't really see that very often in museums, do you?
No, that's it. As I say, you go to places, like the Imperial War Museum, or one of the Imperial War Museums up and down the country, they have got their set displays, and they do focus on certain areas, and I go to some of them and I think there's so much more missing here that could be displayed, and got some cracking bits over the years, and I don't mind blowing that sort of trumpet, and as there's probably is in other people's collections as well. There's some fantastic items that really should be out on display and people can see and have those stories behind them told. So that's I think it's really important just to try and sort of spotlight different areas and back spotlight every 6 months or so, and just see something different. And hopefully we've got these anniversaries coming up. So perhaps we can sort of tell the story of the of the war, over the period of the anniversaries.
What ho?
Yeah, I mean the blackout was a huge part of everyone's lives. You look at all the posters that are about, and all the little blackout aids, as you say, the luminous pins, all the different variations of torches and motor car blackout shields. I've got a series of photographs of the early part of the war where there was a fashion show, and there are all these different ideas that people could have for wearing different items that were either luminous or white, and it was just to sort of show those how much it impacted, and then also to highlight the fact that road deaths went up enormously as soon as the blackout was introduced, and people had to deal with that, and even down to sort of the propaganda side of things. I mean, there's a famous poster from the Ministry of Food extolling the virtues of eating carrots.
Yes.
Absolute myth. I don't think there's any scientific basis in that. But that's a sort of a double-edged sword. They were trying to get people to grow and eat them. More vegetables.
Under the guise of
and also
protecting
when you do this, it's going to help you see in the blackout.
Because there was still commercialism, wasn't there, around as well? There was still lots of businesses and big high street stores that were.
Oh yes, When you see, you quite often see items that were everyday pre-war, items, things like bedside nightlights, there's the small candles. You see these weighted oil lamps. They were sort of, something that was readily available pre-war in pre-war shops. People use them from all sorts of things, from especially the little oil lamps. They might be out in their outside privy at night. Yeah. But suddenly, it built up to war, and then the outbreak of war, these start getting advertised as shelter lights. Yes. And special lights for the shelter. I've got one or two examples of those with actual blackout shields, specific blackout shields on them. So anything that's sort of pre-war items that they can repackage and say, look, this is going to help you in your refuge room or your air raid shelter at night. It really sort of does push that as well. And then you do have the entrepreneurs, different things. I've got sort of floating night lights and things like that that people bought out and were absolutely just focused on the nights of the blackout and the night down the shelter.
What ho?
This is Harry and Edna on the wireless, playing you all those tip-top gramophone tunes while trying to give you a little peek into today's vintage scene here in good old Great Britain. And Edna is chatting to Chris Reynolds about the Blackout Britain. I suppose you call it a micro museum. Although by the sounds of it, it's going to grow large and big. See, I called it a micro museum because way back when we first got into the scene, there was a micro museum called the Blackout Britain, which, as time's gone, that's since folded. And then with the agreement with the previous owners, Chris decided to, if you like, give it a reincarnation. Now, if you're listening to us and you're a regular listener, you may be thinking, well, these are fairly classic tunes, shall we say the polite way. Well, yes, it is, because today, because of the Blackout Britain, we thought we would concentrate on playing music that people associate with the wartime period, which is why you've heard a bit of Glenn, and we do love a little bit of ukulele playing, George Formby. Now, if you want to hear our previous shows, you can do. Just go to harryandedna.co.uk and you will find them available to listen on either stream again through Mixcloud, and you can also download a podcast, although the podcast just has the chat version. And I must admit, I've been very bad at keeping those podcasts up to date. So big trouble for me. And we also do all the usual Facebook stuff, and social media. So if you go to Facebook, just look up Harry and Edna on the wireless. There is only us. If you're on Instagram, we are Harry and Edna Presents. Edna's going to be chatting to Chris yet again after I'm going to play. Well, I can't tell you what the tracks are, because what we do, we record these tracks in advance, and then they all get played through software, because that's how modern radio stations work. But something's going to skew, and I can't actually Well, the software's not telling me which track. So, fingers crossed, we might have to back announce this one.
What ho?
Set up as a late 30s or wartime village hall. So it's going to be set dressed as a village hall. We can then have people come in to talk. So we're looking at having school parties in for talks. And any other interested parties might be WI, people like that might want to come in for talks. We're going to have a small dedicated display area. The smaller displays, that's where we're going to start off with. Once that building's up and running, we've managed to get those sorted and we've got people coming through the door. We've then got larger building that's going to need a lot of work. And we've also recently acquired a Nissan hut that's going up on the property as well. It's very much chicken and the egg. We've got to get one building done, get that going, then get, I think, the Nissan hut with the next project on the cards. We'll get that Nissan hut set up. I think the idea was at the moment we may set dress the front of that, so you walk in maybe something like a home guard office, home guard quarters, and then you walk through there, and then you'll find we're back in with the displays again. There's lots of exciting ideas.
But that's exciting for the visitor, isn't it? So every time they come back, you'll have grown and evolved that little bit more.
Yes, hopefully that's what we're going to. That's what we're hoping that we'll. Museums are a funny thing. They're not always a repeat business type of business, and we're not really setting it up as a business. It's something. It's going to be a labour of love. I love telling the stories. I love showing off the bits in the collection, and to people that are interested. And as I said, we've got lots of American airfield around here, lots of air-based museums, and quite often you go to those museums and you hear voices and American accents, and you find out that you've still got Americans coming back over here. They want to come and see where their father was during the war, or their grandfather was fighting during the war, and it's quite nice to tie in with those other museums that can sort of say, right, okay, we do a couple of airfield museums, come and see what's happening elsewhere around the country on the home front, whilst your guys are over here. You can come and see the A2s and all the other bits of lovely American artefacts in those museums, but come and see something that's a little bit different, and spend a little time with us and show you what it was like on the home front.
What ho?
Do you think you will ever get ambitious and recreate a 1940s house?
The large building we've got on site could possibly have a number of rooms set up as a 1940s house or bungalow, perhaps. So yes, I mean, part of it's going to be. I'd like to tell the story in dioramas, as well as having the glass cabinet display bits with all the nice little trinkety bits. It's quite nice to have the scenes. One of the thoughts possibly could be, and that in the large building is having a street scene with generic 1940s street, and some of the things you may have seen down it, and then you might walk into one of the buildings there and 1940s house, this sort of thing. It's all
part of the evolving, all part of the evolving process. I think, I don't know if you're like us, a lot of people that are kind of in the scene would have just loved to have moved into the 1940s house when they did that series. Leave us everything and we'll just move in.
Yes, I remember when that was on, and I sort of watched that avidly, and then the family came out and spoke quite a lot. I remember seeing that at the Imperial War Museum about their experiences. But then that was a very good series, and it's a shame to see what the house looks like now, unfortunately.
Oh,
I've seen photographs of it, and it's been modernised. Somebody in South East London, it's going to be worth a bomb. But like they had in the 1940s house, it's just getting it right. Make sure that what we're putting on display is what it says it is. If we are going to set dress a room, try and make sure that everything in it is, we set a date line to it, say maybe like 1943, and try and make sure that everything in that room is sort of a realistic 1943. I suppose that's where the anarchy in me comes out. Being a collector, we've all got probably all got these traits. That's part of the fun of it as well, I think. Is doing that research and taking those taking it a step further and
have I got the right wallpaper?
That's it. We've got the right. But what would I have in the house? 1940s furniture. Or 1930s furniture. It would be a mixture of anything from probably Victorian all the way through, because they, when they moved into their house, they were handed my mother's old sideboard, and it was a real mixture of stuff. It was only the people who could really afford all the high Art Deco and really nice, brand new furniture. So it's just little things like that you just think, right, okay, we'll just put that to one side. That's a really nice piece, but actually it's not really appropriate for this set, this set at the moment. That's the idea. I mean, we've got we've got the Morrison shelter, we've got the Anderson shelters, so all those sort of things that everyone knows about and everyone likes to come and see. It's something they can relate to. They've heard of the story of somebody down the Anderson shelter or and things like that. So there's lots of work to do, but we'll get.
What ho?
On Facebook and on Instagram, so just look up Blackout Britain. Give us a like or follow us on one of those medias. I've been trying to sort of cherry pick just little bits of the collection, and we'll sort of post up photographs. I had intentions of doing it on a daily basis, but it hasn't always happened.
You've got to build your museum.
Sometimes I try not to make it too packaging heavy because I've got quite a large vintage packaging or wartime packaging collection. And sometimes it's the bits that are readily available is in storage still. Sometimes just pulling those bits out and trying to think, what's a little bit different? We're not just putting a civilian gas mask on it. It's something that's just got that little bit of interest in it that actually, that's a nice item, just that little bit different. And we're just trying to give a showcase of all the different items that we've got. It would take forever and a day to do every tiny little bit, but within that, then we're as and when we've got the progress going, putting a few photographs up of how we're progressing with the buildings and the new acquisitions that are coming in, see it all building up on there. So as I say, if anyone wants to take a look on Instagram or Facebook, say Blackout Britain, give us a like and you can have a little flick through there and see what we've got to show.
What ho?
Glenn Miller, Moonlight Serenade. I can't help but play that and think of Doctor Who dancing. If there's an episode where he danced in the war, and that was the music they chose. Anyway, this is Harry and Edna on the wireless. I am Harry, and I wanted to quickly explain. We decided today in this show to play all those classic tunes that people do associate with the wartime period. And the reason was we've been chatting to Chris Reynolds from the Blackout Britain Museum. You see, we plan these things. They're just not thrown together. However, if you like to explore and have a musical experience about what music was like in the 30s and the 40s and so forth, do go and visit our website. It's harryandedna.co.uk. On there, you will find our entire back catalogue is available to stream again. And you'll notice that we do play a variety of music, all from our beloved vintage periods. But it's not always the music that you kind of expect. See, so there is a bit more to this show than you imagine.
What ho?
Well, that's it. Just time for me to say tinkly tonk, and do join us next time.
What ho?